Hey guys, how you doing? Nice to see you. This is ArtsyWisdom. My name's Diane. I am going to do a couple political things. I haven't done those in a little while. I've been channeling people that have been gone and passing through that information through me and sharing it with you guys. Some writers recently, Fitzgerald and Orwell and Hemingway, which was super interesting. Thank you for your comments on that. Today I'm going to be looking into, somebody had asked me about Germany and Sweden leaving the EU. And so I wanted to get into that, about Greenland and the strife with our administration or Trump's administration to go and just dominate and take over. And so I looked into that to see how Greenland is taking it. I also wanted to share with you some images I got about him, F-47, the tariffs yesterday and all the crazy, and the Dow dropped, S&P dropped, the greatest in many years. Anyway, I got into his health and I got into his will and his mind. And I wanted to share with you some of the images I got. Very interesting. And this Laura Loomer, this right-wing conspiracy theorist who is only 31, he has taken her advice and fired 6 of his National Security Council people. He should have let Mike Waltz go, but he doesn't want to look like a failure, which he will eventually be. And he will also let go of Mike Waltz. He definitely will fire him eventually. And Pete Hegseth, but not yet, because he doesn't want to make it seem like he's made a bad choice. Because it's all about winning and losing. And then those of you who have been here before, you can see my fancy notes. I looked into John O'Keefe. If you haven't been watching the Karen Reed trials, she has been accused of killing her boyfriend with her car, accidentally or on purpose. There was a trial last year. There was a mistrial or hung jury, and it was confusing about how the jurors read the instructions. Anyway, they're retrying it. I looked into his energy last year, got a lot of information. This time I went back there. He was very, I wouldn't say chatty, but he was very easy to talk to. And I'm going to give you those things that he was sharing with me about different scenarios that occurred. Very interesting as well. I think that's it. Those of you who are new to my channel may not know, this is all my artwork. I'm an artist, hypnotherapist, and if you guys are interested in past life regression or hypnosis, there's a link in my description box. I also do tarot readings. I'm an astrologer and a life coach, and I do intuitive things. So it's all wrapped up, and I mix all those modalities together sometimes, and they all work for me. So let's get started. So today I'm going to just talk to you about, I'm going to go into the European area, and how I work is I tend to get images and colors and moods, feelings, but sometimes I get little pictures that are related to food or different, they mean different things. When I got into I looked at Europe from a bigger perspective. I was asking about leaving the EU or how they're feeling about this whole tariff situation, how they're going to manage it. I felt them very uneasy about staying in the EU at this time. I don't feel like they're leaving, but I feel like they are very concerned about their own autonomy. I think they feel like they're being pulled farther than they want to be. They want to be very... I don't know if there's any German. I feel like they want to keep their lines in a row, and they don't want to do anything more extravagant than, they're already, I think they took out loans when they've never been in debt for a country before because they wanted to build up their military so much. So there's that, and they are completely focused on their own needs. I know they're part of the greater EU, but there's something about they're uneasy right now, and that's the feeling. I feel like there's pressure, and the tariffs and everything like that. Every day is a new day, obviously, in this world right now. Chaos and confusion is just thick in the air. They want to do their own thing. When I looked at Sweden, they are already talking next steps. They are making serious plans. For them, it wasn't about doing what just they wanted, although I know that's part of it. It was more about how they can get the most out of their partnerships. Because I think they feel how I got is that they feel there's opportunities there that they're not using, or something about treaties, contracts, or the way things are written that they need to redo. Perhaps this is about the tariffs. Perhaps it's about a cooperative thing with the EU and how, the tariffs are reflected in production or whatever it is, or reciprocal tariffs. They're making serious plans, though. This is and that's tangible. I feel like that's a tangible thing that is happening. They do not want any more upheaval. They really want to calm things down. They feel like the chaos is scaring them, as it is for all of us, but they really want to make it, the EU benefits for them to be part of it, to be worth their while. So they're thinking about rewriting something, or reorganizing, or coming to a different agreement. Them specifically. Germany is a whole other thing. They want to pull back. I don't know. It's a different vibe, if that makes any sense. I looked at Greenland, and I know it's a territory of Denmark, or province. And in the past, I've seen I know it's Russia and China. I know F-47 is trying to manipulate it to help put pressure on Russia, or give something to Russia, and also for us to get mineral rights and oil and all these natural resources, and to just dominate and just have more land, because that's what he does. He likes to take. I've said this before. When he was a failed real estate person who went bankrupt like 8 times, he, whenever he wanted a piece of property, a house, or a piece of land where somebody owned and they didn't want to give it up, they would be like regular people that didn't have as much, depth of wealth to fight in court. And he did, and he just took it. He never had an ounce of empathy. Never. He wanted it and he took it. And these people couldn't fight it. They tried, but so it's the same idea. He just wants something, and like the women, he just can grab their, or he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, get away with it. It's all the same vibe. Still doing that. So he does believe that he could do this. But they are working to block any takeovers. The Greenland and Denmark are working. There's something they're reconfiguring, and I know Greenland is really trying to build up their military footprint, their defensive footprint, something like that. And Denmark is helping them, and they're trying to build goodwill, is the words I got, within Europe, like a coordinated effort. So much happening. Marco Rubio is over there. I don't feel like this is about Greenland, but he might be talking to Denmark. It kind of touches on it, but it's a different thing. Tariffs are just overriding everything right now. But I do feel like he wants to, I'm just reading my notes. They're going to be forced, though. I sense they're going to be forced for protection of some kind from Russia. You're in the neighborhood and you got the mob that comes by and says, hey, you want a fire? I can protect you from your place burning down. Just give us this money every week or whatever. We'll come by. You're paying for protection. That's what the feeling is. A little bit of a, I know a guy that knows a guy who can take care of you. And it's something with this trade. They're going to come up with some minerals, or the air base, or the military base. It's going to be a little bit. They're going to give in a little bit to maintain their sovereignty or their autonomy, because there's something they're going to get out of it, the protection, quote unquote, from Russia. At the same time, there's going to be an agreement that Greenland will come up with eventually between the Trump administration, and he's going to just say it's going to be awesome, and how much money they're going to make, or how much they're going to save, or whatever. I don't feel like it's now. Right now, they're focused on this military defensive posturing. And actually, I can see how it may connect to Europe, to Denmark. There's a connection there. Like, you help this person, they help that, and it's like domino effect. I feel like that's how something with that leads into Denmark and that kind of thing. I'm not sure. Okay, forgot. You know what? I wear these Otter Spirit bracelets and they have different meanings. I partnered with them and I have a little discount. It's like ArtsyWisdom 22. It's in my description box. But they have some of the nicest bracelets. And I love this smaller size because it just doesn't hit on the table very easily. And I'm always writing. You guys know because I'm always writing down my meditations. But they give a piece of each bracelet to the Wildlife Otter Fund in Southern California, and they only use really high quality gemstones and natural stones, authentic AAA grade. And each little box has like a little velveteen pouch and a card that relates to the stone itself, the part of your chakra that it is associated with, and the intention and the zodiac sign. It's really kind of fun. And I'm always wearing, this is lapis lazuli. It's kind of like this one, actually. It's the same kind of thing. And they have different meanings. So anyway, if you guys are interested. John O'Keefe. Now, Karen Reed, he showed me her. He shows me her as manic and kind of crazy and wild. He was getting ready to break up with her. They were going through a lot of ups and downs. I think she was living at his house part-time and taking care of his niece and nephew, who he adopted because his sister died and the brother-in-law died. Both of them died. One, I forget, of each, different health or accidents, I forget. But now he took in those children. So she helped take care of him. She was getting annoyed. I'm giving you a little backstory. But she is a little crazy and a little wild, but when you hear her talking, but nothing that would make her want to hurt him. So when I got into John's energy, he's very open, and he said I was going to finish this, that meaning their relationship, and he says I am happy and good now. He said his family and the kids and all the people, that he knew that loved him and loved his siblings, his parents mostly, is what I was picturing. They need to finish this nightmare, he said. They need to have closure. And he's around. He's really around the trial. He's trying to help people understand what happened, I think. He said his family's been put through so much. He said, my sister, other deaths. He said, like we are cursed, he said, which is sad. They're not cursed. It's just the time they've chosen to be down here. I mean, it's sad. I'm not making light of it, but it's sad. He said, Karen was so manic and wild at times. And I said, did she hit you with the car? He says, no. We were arguing in the car before I went in. I was in the cab of the car. It's a big SUV. I forget what kind it is. It's a nicer one though. And I can hear like testiness and snapping, and she's snapping at him and he's looking on his phone. They're arguing. And he said, we were arguing before I went in. I stood by the car for a bit. So what I'm imagining, she's in the driver's seat because she was taking him. He didn't go like directly across the grass because she's parked in the front of the house and she was parked towards one side where he eventually was found, where they think she hit him, or the prosecution. But she said he was supposed to go into the house, and because she wasn't comfortable with this group of people. They weren't her friends. They were his friends or people that he knew from work because they were police officers too. And in Boston or Canton. She saw him go up there, but he says he stood by the car briefly. He was in her blind spot. I don't know what that means or why it matters, but he said he stood there for a second. He didn't jump out and run across the lawn. And it had just started to snow. It was getting to be, a dusting. And he didn't have a coat on. He only had like a hoodie over, I think it was a thin hoodie. But he said, we were arguing. I went in, I stood by the car for a bit. Blind spot. And it was dark at the end of the driveway. So he kind of went that way. Instead of going straight across, I feel like he went kind of to the side by the road and then went up the driveway. I don't know if he didn't want to get his shoes wet in the grass or what. And he says there was a lot of fighting between, okay. So what he showed me is the Colin, the kid, I think his name is Colin, 18-year-old, who is part of this too. He shows me that he sticks his head out, or he calls to him, and he shows him not the front doors, because they have these weird 2 front doors. It was on the side of the garage, and he notices them there, or he's calling to John, or there's something, and he's antagonizing him. There's some agitation already. And I remember, I think there's part of the trial where they had kind of an ongoing thing, don't get on my lawn or something. I forget what it was. But John was going up there. And remember, everybody had been drinking a lot. Everybody, not Colin as much, I don't think. But they were, so he gets up there and he called my name and he stuck his head out, like I just said, egging me on to go down there, or going up to the house, away from upstairs. So he went around, because everybody inside said John never came in the house. They never saw him there. So she hid him outside, and that's where he laid. That's what the theory is. Well, I saw him go back there. He goes through another entrance, a back door, something on the side. And Colin is there, and they're egging me to go downstairs or something. There's already like a back and forth, trash talking, assholery kind of situation. And the music was loud. He's saying it was already loud down there and up. It was on both places loud. Maybe it wasn't louder, you couldn't hear talking, but he said it was, you couldn't hear very well. And then Colin, then I walked down drunk, and then we all got into this fast fighting, wrestling kind of assholery stuff. Like, don't tell me what to do. What are you doing, asshole? Kind of things. And, guys and police officers who have too much testosterone, and like, I think Brian Albert, the one whose home it was, he taught boxing or MMA or something, although he said he didn't do it very often. So he had already that in his, he was already, skilled with that. And then before they showed scenes from the bars they were all in, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were kind of wrestling, or was it the other Albert? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They were kind of wrestling at this restaurant or this bar. They were all drinking a lot. And they had just come from a funeral, the 2 Brians, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. They were both down there. Now, the music was loud, and we all get going, and it turns bad fast. It feels like what started as a wrestling thing turned into a fight. And the dog was there, whose name was Chloe, which is a German Shepherd, and that's part of the whole defense. The way his arm was chewed up. They say it was from the car, but it was from the dog. It's obvious. And she got part in, because she was kind of aggressive at times. So she was part of that. There's a whole big thing. So what he showed me is he was fighting, I think it was with Brian Albert first, or no, Brian Higgins first, and then Brian Albert kind of jumps in, and then it becomes a free-for-all, and he's basically ambushed. And then it's Brian Higgins, I believe, entertainment purposes. He's the one that hits him with something heavy, like something heavy. I don't know if it was a baseball bat or something heavier. It feels wet, metal and heavy. I don't know what they had down there. Oh, they did have weights. So I think that's what it is. And heavy over my head. I'm sorry. He said, my head hurts. Oh, that's right. I feel like my head hurts when he hits. And he's thinking immediately, I don't know if he was unconscious, but he wasn't gone yet. But he's thinking about her outside, because he was supposed to call her and let her know. And I think that was his last thought, was she's out there. Maybe she could help, or I got to let her know, or something like that. And then I think it wasn't long. And then he went unconscious, and I think he threw up, and he said, I wanted to tell her, but I was knocked out. And he said there's blood. And they hurried to catch everything as much as they could, like plastic garbage bags or something to catch the blood. And they watched him and decided what to do. I think they thought, well, maybe he'd just come to. They didn't know how bad it was, kind of thing. And Brian Higgins did it. That's who I think did it, that hit. They are all involved, but I think that was the big hit and helped. But mostly the dog jumped in. And they were ambushed. He said they didn't mean to take me out of the world. They didn't mean that. He said they were just all drunk. Everybody was drunk, and they were agitated and testosterone about Karen and the Brian who did it. They were having flirtatious texts. It's like a Peyton place. A lot of everybody's all connected. They turned off the lights. So later, somehow they collected him they put him on a tarp or something where they could carry him. But he's telling me they turned all the lights out in the front, like the house lights. This is later. This isn't right now. He's just stayed down there. And then the two Brians went upstairs and they were hanging out and everybody seemed like it was normal. And Colin left. So it happened almost immediately after he got in the house, but then everybody kind of acted like it was fine and they didn't, but he's down there, he had a cracked skull. Bags or tarps or carried him out. So they didn't drag him. They lifted him over because by then there was snow. There was a lot more snow and they didn't want to show that it was being dragged. Although I don't know if you could if the snow went on top of it. But they kind of rolled. He showed me they rolled him out, like didn't drag him and lift him off. They kind of rolled him. They never touched the ground kind of thing. Something like that. With that tarp. He did. He obviously did. And they got rid of, he said something about tarp or golf bag or something where they could lift him up. And then Karen's car, he said, came nowhere from where he would have died. He showed me like 2 feet. He said, I was that far over and there was no way she could have hit me from where I landed, kind of thing is what he said logically. He's telling me for her sake. He said, I was found a couple feet away. She's crazy, but did not do that, he said. I asked him about what did they do, because there's one of the detectives or the investigators actually got fired. There was another federal investigation about the investigation because it was so screwed up and so, there's so much, I just think there's just so much corruption in that city and they all covered up. That's my opinion though. He said the chain of evidence, they put items in and they put items out. So there's something about the chain of evidence which they manipulated. And it's a cover up. He said this Brian Higgins won't go to jail yet. He used the word yet. I don't feel like it's anytime soon. If it is, I think it'll be down the road. They're in this trial for Karen, they're going to add more evidence than they had in the first trial. There's something about this evidence they didn't have before. They're going to add to it. So it'll be a little bit more difficult or confusing for the jury. They might see her more guilty than they did the last time, if that makes any sense. It'll confuse the jury more. He showed me them breaking, they're using some sort of crowbar against the back light, because I don't know, you guys might know all of this already, but the car went into the impound at this police station and all of a sudden they don't have the video from that side of the car when it was an impound, and time passes and Higgins had walked through and he got rid of his phone. There's all kinds of things that are very sketchy. But he showed me there's a crowbar or some sort of metal tool that they're taking the plastic, because they found the plastic near John's body where the light plastic would be, where it would crack on him, or supposedly. I still don't see that's possible because that plastic's so hard. But they took a crowbar, I don't know, whenever her car was somewhere, and they broke off that plastic and they placed it. So that's what he showed me. See them breaking the light with a crowbar type thing. He feels so bad for his niece and nephew. This is like trauma times 100, he said. But he did say, the good thing is there's some family friends, not so much, and they're his parents too, and his brother, but there's some family friends that they're very connected to, and they're very stable. And he feels like they're out of this whole dynamic, or maybe they're in another town. Maybe that's it. They're farther away, so they're staying there where it's calmer and peaceful, and they're doing what they can to stay healed. And he said this, drain the swamp. He said Canton, Boston, all of Mass. He said actually all of it. He said it's a mess there, but I find that interesting. I didn't see some of that before. I didn't see how they broke the lights, and I didn't know who it was, but now I know it's Brian Higgins. But anyway, I just wanted to get into the energy of this Laura Loomer real quick before I tell you what I got for F47, the failed felon, failure at all his businesses guy. He is taking the whole country down with him, and he's convincing everybody. But the Republicans in the House, the Senate approved the Democrats and Republicans got together and said, no, we don't want to put these tariffs on Canada. But the impression I got was everybody's saying, oh, it's going to die in the House. The Republicans have already ceded their vote, and they say, never mind, it's going to die in the House, and we're not even going to bring it to the floor. Mike Johnson is not going to bring it to the floor. This could be the pivotal time for Mr. Johnson, because he's got to walk a real fine line, and there's a lot of pressure. I think the stock market will go up tomorrow. I'm not a financial person, but I have a sense that it's going to go up after it goes down a little bit more. Maybe it'll be a day or two. I'm not sure, but it'll eventually go up. But will the Republicans, I'm going to look in Laura Loomer, but I'm into this mood of the Republicans in the House. They are going to lose 4 or 5 actually in the House that are going to push back. They're going to say no to these tariffs to Canada. Is it enough though? No, it's not enough. It's going to stay. And because he would have vetoed it anyway, but it's going to stay. And that's what I saw yesterday. These tariffs are going to stay. He's not backing off, at least for now. Anyway, Laura Loomer, the 31-year-old conspiracy theorist tower, she's bringing with her destruction and just destroying things along the way. Speaking of destroying, the previous doctor that oversaw I don't know if it was our COVID response, but the Health and Human Services, he worked in health. And he was on Rachel Maddow last night, and he talked about 2 of the doctors, really senior level people that came up with the monoclonal, I think that's how you pronounce it, antibodies that when Trump was in the helicopter, he went to Walter Reed. They gave him these doses, and that's probably what saved him his life. Well, the doctors that created those, they're gone now because they just are. 10,000 Health and Human Services people, staff, just a blanket, all gone. So there will be pain because a lot of these people, children, families, going to get sick and won't have the institutions there to help them. It's very sad. He said we don't have much time because within a week we're going to start to feel that people aren't even there to answer the phones. Laura Loomer is bringing destruction again like this. It's almost like the sense I have is a gang of wild gang, looters that, there's riots, right? In any city or wherever. There's riots, and then looters take advantage of this and they go and they loot the businesses and steal all the stuff out of there. That's the feeling I have right now. I feel as if we are being looted and the police aren't there to take care of it. And there's too much of it to even fight against. So it's almost like us as business owners have to stand there with our shotgun and protect our own businesses. And that's the feeling I get. It's because nobody's going to help us really at this point. Eventually, everybody, it's going to be okay. Right now, like I said, this is the messy, yucky part. And it's just got to feel the pain. Laura Loomer is going to continue to be his advisor. He likes her demeanor. He likes her attitude. He likes how she is no nonsense. And I think he's going to keep her around. She's not going anywhere. Okay. Now, as for the Trumpster, I see him being annoyed with Putin. There's some agreement that Putin has not followed through with. Trump said, "You're going to do this." We're going to, whatever they talked about on the phone for 2 hours a few weeks ago. And Putin has said no. He is playing him hard. Putin is playing F-47 hard. He is bullying him back because, of course, he's an ex-KGB guy. He knows, he does the con, and he's saying that wasn't the plan. He is playing Trump, and he's annoyed because the part of that the annoyance comes from is some dementia that he's getting irritated about because did I forget that? Or is that what I thought? So there's a layer that's happening with that too. People that start losing it, they get confused and then they get angry, a little bit irritated. That's what's going on as well. Putin, I felt like, has all these other plans that he's like, okay, good. He's taking care of this and I'm going to take care of that. And now he's put in his place and Putin has all these other things he's going to do. And he also has more leverage on Trump eventually. He's going to leverage something else. And I see that he's sneaking around Trump and because he lied a lot just to get to this point. He sees that Trump is going to be ending soon. I don't know what that looks like, but the feeling I get is Putin thinks he's going to be out of the picture, either through health or through Republican, voters or whatever. So he feels like he already has some of these things in place, and he's using already whatever he needed him for. Somehow he got some of it already, and I don't know what that is. Maybe it's some sensitive information, some intel, something Putin is using now. He's saying no. Doesn't mean it's going to stay forever like that, because I do think he'll pop back in and they'll sort of have some sort of agreement on whatever. But he'll just be using them again. Trump doesn't get it. So when I got into Trump's energy, I immediately felt like this sense of, and I've seen this before. It was before the inauguration where I feel like he just falls over and he spins. I thought it was then, but it feels like a weakness. And I saw this last week, right before the weekend, like he's exhausted. And this week is pretty darn hard because of all the tariffs and everything. At the end of the weekend, he seems to get rejuvenated because he's home and he's in his whatever. Maybe he's got special meds there or something, but I feel like he's going to fall over. I feel especially weak. And there's some kind of cloudiness. And he feels like I feel like there's a sense of change going to be coming. And it's around his health, around... The tariffs are part of it. There's all these layers of his mind. Oh, that book just came out. I guess people are saying that all his aides, Biden had these aides. I digress. Sorry for a second. Biden's aides, they were in denial. People were in denial. They didn't share all the information about his state, his mind, his body. I think his mind was there. He's just old. He was just elderly and he shouldn't have ran. I'm not mad at him. I love me some Joe Biden, but the whole process should have changed to something else. We would have still had Trump. He would have still been out there, but it would have been a different vibe. And I think that was disappointing. I was disappointed in that. And I forgot to mention too yesterday, Cory Booker and that 25-hour filibuster. Oh my God, I can't even imagine talking for an hour. I get hoarse just talking on here. And 25 hours. Can you imagine? Good for him. Sometimes you just have to make noise. You go with your gut. It may make no sense, but eventually it matches up to somebody else and it builds from there. Good for him. Good for us. Okay. And then, so he is going to change. There's going to be a shift. I know he's in the office. I don't see him leaving office, but there's something going to happen. This change of leadership isn't, there's a change going to be happening. The way this is going, it's just cannot continue. The constituents at home, the residents of each of all of these red states who get a lot of federal funding, the tariffs, the veterans who are losing their jobs, health and medicine, all of it. It can't continue like this. People will find ways to help themselves and get creative because humans are good about adapting and being creative. But ultimately, overall, yeah, it's terrible. Anyway, so I take heart in that. It is shifting. Now, I think his health and his mind is just like depending on the day. He's just not remembering things, and we need to. I would like to send wisdom and light and human kindness to the leaders, Republican, Democrat, all the leaders that are moving us through these times, for good or for bad. Send them light and wisdom and have them remember the heart of human kindness that once they knew, maybe they still know it, that gives them the courage to say no and do what's right for all of us. Hopefully, spirit and love of God, the universe, the one, can enter that space and remind them. Miracles happen every day. So let's just stay in that place too, if we can send that to everybody. Not just the people we like, because the ones we don't like need it more than that. All right. If you have any more questions, you guys have any ideas about who you want me to read for, continue to do so. Know that I read all your comments. I don't always respond, but I really appreciate the likes and the new subscribes and everything. Till next time.